All right, and for more on this conversation, we're now joined by Ari Katz. He is the CEO of Boston City Campus, and he joins us now via our video link. Mr. Katz, thank you so much for your time this evening here in SABC News. I mean, let's start off here. What do you make of the latest quarterly labour force survey, of course, indicating a continued dip there when it comes to unemployment?
So good evening, Mbali. I think what's extremely relevant is the fact that, as you mentioned, those between the ages of 25 and 34, over 40% of them are unemployed, and that's a staggering number. But what is interesting is that if you break it down a little bit more, what you will see is that those who, for example, who do not have a matric is the highest level of unemployment. Those who have a matric have 34% unemployed, whereas graduates really have 9% unemployed. Now, whilst that number is not acceptable, it's certainly far better than those, for example, who do not have a formal tertiary education. So clearly, education is one of the indicators that will reduce unemployment. However, the real question that we really be asking ourselves is whether the graduates who are entering the workforce are equipped and whether the educational institutions are actually doing enough to assist graduates to enter the workforce. And there are many answers to that and many potential solutions to that. So primary, first up, I think, is that educational institutions need to adopt a number of strategies. First up is that we need to include workplace integrated learning into all qualifications so that our graduates, when they leave, when they graduate and they enter the workforce, this is not an unfamiliar territory to them, and they've been exposed to the workforce. Along those lines, also, we need to ensure that curricula is updated to match the requirements of the job market or the employment market, not only on a local level, but on an international level. And what was interesting is in the latest conference of the South African private higher education institutions, there were a number of awards for those who were engaged in revising curriculum and adapting curriculum to meet challenging conditions and the latest conditions. And probably was notably amongst that was Dr. Janet Viljoen from Boston, who received an Excellence Award for Organic and Iterative Curriculum Design, indicating the importance of revising curriculum to match the needs of the marketplace. In addition, other important aspects were, for example, an award received by Professor Kobus Oosthuizen, also from Boston, on AI in the workplace. And that's going to be a major factor in the job market, looking at graduates to see whether they're actually able to use AI in their chosen field of expertise. And I think that's critical, that education institutions embrace AI and incorporate this into the curriculum as an integral part of the curriculum.
Very important factor there, especially now as we head towards preparing for the future. But before we take a step forward, when it comes to the issue of youth unemployment in this country, it has been a problem for many years and continues to be a problem. Maybe just outline for us the barriers which are associated with a high youth unemployment rate.
So I think the one is that disconnect between academia and the workplace, and hence the importance of, as I said before, workplace integrated learning and closer collaboration between commerce and industry on the one hand, government on the other hand, and educational institutions, and the need to actually work more closely together to ensure that education institutions are equipping graduates to meet the requirements of the workplace. Along those lines as well, I think the government needs to incentivize employers to employ youth and to take youth on in the form of things like internships, learnerships, etc., so that youth are given the opportunity to be exposed to the workplace. We know factually that those who have some workplace experience have a much higher chance of gaining long-term employment. And so that's critical. I think in addition, one other factor that's changed in the world is that because of the internet, the world has become a much smaller place, and we also need to encourage graduates to innovate and to actually understand that the job market isn't necessarily limited to the South African economy. We're able to actually export IP, export talent, export expertise to the international market, and particularly leverage the weak exchange rate. So that's a very important factor, and that's been enabled largely, of course, by the internet.
Yeah. And Ari, when it comes to upskilling our youth, how important is it, to upskill our youth, particularly when it comes to ensuring that they enter the job market already with the necessary skills?
So amongst that, as I said before, workplace integrated learning, digital literacy, ensuring that they're equipped with the latest tools and techniques. As I said, AI, for example, critical that learners embrace that. But one other factor, I think, as well, when you spoke about barriers, we also need to change the mindset of our students. Students need to understand from the day they enter university or college, that is actually the day that they're starting to look for a job, not the day that they graduate. And what that means is that they need to look for the relevance of their studies, number one, and integrate that into the real world, as well as forging relationships with employers. Try and gain experience, irrespective of what you're being paid, but really to gain some kind of workplace experience, so that the day they graduate, that's not the day that they start looking for a job. And the educational institutions need to assist by implementing things like graduate support programs, which start not only when you graduate, but actually from the day you enter college or university.
And Ari, when it comes to, what you mentioned a bit earlier on, using AI, when it comes to upskilling the youth, especially those looking for, some sort of employment in the job market, what role can AI play in terms of the opportunities available for young people before they even enter the job market?
So I think what's critical, number one, is for young people to understand how to use AI to be more efficient and effective. So irrespective of the field of study, everyone talks about AI replacing everybody's jobs, but I don't believe that that's true. I think the opportunity lies in learning how to incorporate AI into your particular field. So whether you're studying economics or whether you're studying accounting or whether you're studying sociology, the real question is, how does AI assist me in actually making me more efficient and more effective? And if I understand how to harness the power of AI, then I'm far better equipped for the job market, both locally, as I said, as well as internationally. And I want to again emphasize the importance of our youth thinking on a global scale, particularly because of the weak exchange rate.
All right, Ari, thank you so much for your time. That is Ari Katz, CEO of Boston City Campus there, just talking about ways of upskilling the youth even before they leave their tertiary institutions.